Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. We are back today with Tim Carter and Ginger Couch from Benton House Assisted Living. We're going to be sharing information that is important about helping you and your loved ones through the transition between living alone to living in an assisted community. So I want to welcome you to the show, Tim. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, thanks for having us. We're happy to be here.
And Ginger.
Hey,
it's always nice to have two guests, because then I feel like if there's a lull, I can just go to somebody else to help me.
No. Good.
So we have important information about assisted living that we're going to share today. And, you know, I know folks that are going through this right now, and, well, I just don't know how to get mom and dad to that point. And so lots of good stuff. I have so many questions in my head that I'm going to ask y'all today. So thanks so much for coming. Tim, do you want to first start by introducing yourself? What is your role at Benton House? How long have you been there? How did you get into this lovely business?
My name's Tim Carter. I'm the executive director at Benton House in Douglasville. We are assisted living and memory care. I kind of sort of have a mentor that's done this basically his whole life, and I was lucky enough just to be exposed to a lot of his stories, and I know that in my heart I love to serve people, and that's really what keeps me happy and makes a job, you know, not a job to me. So I was lucky enough to make some contacts through him, and just found the right opportunity. Took about 2 years to interview for the right position, and was very patient and sort of found the perfect opportunity. So,
you know, I know we're talking about assisted living, but I can't help but talk about this because, you know, you mentioned you had a mentor, and you know, I'd love to see more of that, because look at how much it affected you and your decisions for your future.
Sure.
And you're giving back because you have a heart and a passion for that. And had you not had that mentor, perhaps we would have lost someone in our industry that was meant to be there.
Yeah, I'm very fortunate, and I know that for sure. It's definitely something that I'll try to pass on if I'm lucky enough to have someone that wants to be like me. I don't know why anyone would, but no, I'm just really fortunate. And I think, honestly, when a lot of times we're talking, I sort of feel like I have an advantage over people that may not have a relationship like that or someone that they can look forward to. I've honestly felt bad about, being so much in a better position because of the people that I have and this particular individual to get advice from, and sort of.
But you have to be open to it too. But I will tell you, this industry, you get back so much more than what you give. And we are going to talk about assisted living and helping your parents transition, or your loved ones, grandparents, whoever it is that you might be thinking might need the assistance of assisted living. But this all really does tie in. You know, I worked for hospice for a lot of years, and we always talk about, if you go to a party, what's the first question someone asks you? Oh, hey, what do you do? And the minute I say hospice, oh, and it's a great conversation stopper.
Sure.
But in the same line of mentors, there's so much to learn from people who were generations before you, and what a gift it is to get back those lessons in life that they've had, and how many mentors we all can have just by surrounding ourselves by our elders. And to a great extent, I feel like that's missing in our society today anyway.
Sure.
And so, along with all of the information we're going to talk about with assisted living, if anybody you know wants to volunteer and give back to communities, what a great way to give back than to come to an assisted living community or a nursing home and volunteer your time, even just to sit down and watch a baseball game, and how much you get back. So thank you, Tim. We're going to get back to you in just a sec. So Ginger, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm Ginger. I'm actually the Regional Director of Community Relations for Principal Senior Living Group, which is the parent company for Benton House Communities, as well as Manor on the Square, Garden House in South Carolina. So coming from a more regional role, overseeing the communities and being the support for executive directors or the actual community relations director in the communities is kind of
to get the word out about what all makes you special
Sure.
and why people should come and visit your facilities and
Right.
tour. And I do want to talk about that and some of the questions people should ask and what they're looking for in a facility and things to think about so we
Sure.
can arm people with the education they need before they even come to see you all. But Principal Senior Living Group, is that nationwide? Where do they cover?
Sure. We are located out of Roswell, Georgia, and then we have 10 communities in Georgia, and then we have 2 in Florida, 1 in South Carolina, 2 in Kansas, and then 1 or Missouri, and then another one coming online as well in that area, and some others coming online, Brunswick, Alpharetta as well. So then mostly in the Atlanta area.
Okay, Mid-Atlantic mostly. Okay,
Sure.
great. So Tim, you're the executive director, which really runs the show at so many people in a facility run the show, but
Sure.
you oversee the operations.
Well, I think something unique about Principal Senior Living Group is, we're kind of supported from the top, and so I'm really just there as a resource to everyone that really makes great things happen in the community. I just kind of, I can make a decision if someone needs help, but I'm so fortunate to have great supporting cast, and it goes really to the regional support that we receive as well. It's not just me. I have the title of executive director, but it's so many more people that really make things happen at Benton House. I just have to answer the questions about it, and there's really no problem doing that with a great cast.
Love that answer. So let's get down and dirty here. You have a loved one. You know that they're really not very safe at home. You can't put your head on the pillow and go to sleep at night because you're worried about mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandmother, grandfather living alone, wondering if they shut the stove off or whatever the issues are. And so you're starting to think more and more and more about placing your loved one in an assisted living facility. But you know what? That's a difficult conversation to have.
Sure.
And so can you walk us through maybe what a family goes through before they even walk in your door and how maybe you can help them with those pre-conversations before they even get to the tour? How can they make it easier to transition that loved one to you?
Well, I think, one of the most important things is to do the research and understand what the options are, and, try to know exactly what your loved one is going to need. And we all understand your concerns, but know what you're looking for and what's going to make your loved one happy. I think you can just plan on there being some pushback from your loved one. It's very rare that folks, that the actual resident will walk into a community and say, I need this. It's usually families coming out beforehand and trying to get a feel for what the community is like, explaining their needs or what they believe their needs are. And then it's about creating options for that person. I think really some residents or seniors feel like coming into an assisted living community is giving up some independence. And I think what can really help families drive that conversation is to help them understand that they're really gaining independence by coming someplace where they're going to have their meals prepared for them. They're not going to have to worry about housekeeping. There's going to be someone there to take control of their medications
And make sure they're compliant.
Exactly.
Which makes them healthier and better.
Exactly. There's going to be social stimulation. There's activities. We can help arrange doctor appointments. I think if you can have that conversation and drive the conversation in that direction, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's always something I tell families to try and do, because they're going to get some pushback, and their loved one is going to say, I'm going to stay in my house as long as I can. But to help them understand that you're getting so much more, and your world is going to be really opened up when you have all these things lifted away from you, and you don't have to worry about taking your medications correctly or cooking for one person and eating by yourself. Is just really, I've had a lot of success with families taking the conversation that way. So
Okay. And, it's funny because on Valentine's Day, I spent the night at an assisted living facility at a Valentine's Day dance. And I got to tell you, the folks there were pretty happy to be there, and it was very social. And I was talking to the executive director of this assisted facility as well, and I said, boy, it seems like it's like Club Med a little bit. And I know it was Valentine's night and it was a party, but these women were so social, and of course they were all vying over all the men. So it can be a good thing to have all of that socialization and interaction, and it really seemed fun. It seemed like they had their little club, and they were always talking about what this one's doing, or, oh, she went back to her room. They're keeping an eye on each other. And it seemed like that they came alive because they were together with people like themselves.
Yeah, I think one of the things I've heard Ginger say so often is they, have you ever been on a cruise? And they'll, say yes or no. And it's like creating a cruise on land every day. There's always activities. There's always something fun to do. There's lots of stimulation socially, and just opportunities for folks to enjoy life every day. So it can be pretty cool.
And like everything in life, you look at the positives as well as the difficulties when making a decision. Prior to a move to an assisted living facility, should someone start these discussions with their loved one?
Yeah, I don't think you can start the research soon enough. You certainly don't want to be in a position where there's a hospitalization or some type of emergency happens, and then you're rushing in to make a decision that's really so important to your loved one's happiness. So to the point where you can get out as early as possible and understand what's in your community, understand your options, and then have those things on the table so that when the time does come, or if there is that situation, then what move and where to what's the next piece of the puzzle. It's when you're dealing with an emergency with one of your loved ones, you don't want this heaped on your plate, because there's a lot that's got to happen to make a move like this, and it can make that situation worse.
Yeah, and everything decided in a crisis is too fast, and your brain's not clear because you're in a crisis, and regret might set in, and you didn't have time to talk it through or what have you. So, this show is called Better Living, and we are all about community education and helping people be empowered to make the right choices for them based on the information sharing. So I couldn't agree more with you that the sooner that you research, maybe you don't want to tell someone for 6 months, because then you're going to increase the anxiety over a 6-month period. I don't really know the right answer, but we can start talking about more resources and books that maybe you can suggest that might be helpful as well.
Sure.
You have any right now?
No. We'll share it. We'll save that for later.
Okay. So Ginger, you're out in the community, and you're doing a lot of the education, and you're meeting with a lot of the folks that might be transitioning into the building. Is that correct?
Yes and no. Well, I help my actual community relations directors that are all in the actual community to just be a support to them. So maybe there's a big event going on in the community. I'm there to help out and be an extra set of hands, get things set up for our folks in the community, give them more ideas. And, if they need to go out and do some marketing or just some outreach, then I can be in the community if a family or people come in looking for a loved one, a place for their loved one.
A place to place them. So what are some top questions? Why don't you walk us through what, I know there's never typical, but maybe an example of someone who's come in and what their fears are and what's going on with them, and some top questions they might have so that we can help our listeners better prepare for this time in their lives.
Sure, definitely. I find the most that somebody's seeking out needs because maybe some things recently happened. Maybe mom's had a fall. Maybe the family's noticing that the loved one's not eating as well, or just some things are off with memory or whatnot. So something always makes a person give us a call, whether they're looking for now, 6 months later, whatever. There's some reason why somebody is calling us. So just giving them that research and education and that full broad spectrum of what they can expect. So we love to have somebody to come in and visit our community, show them around, show them different floor plan options, space options, how much what does their loved one need, that sort of thing, and really getting down to the nitty gritty so that we can know if, how we can care for this person. If it's just somebody needing social activities, then we'd love for them to come and, join us for Blue Jeans Barbecue and Bluegrass and really,
oh, that's great.
Yeah, come to an event or come join us for a meal. Maybe if it's somebody that does need a little bit more assistance with bathing or dressing, come and stay with us even for a week and just respite with us while their, family's on vacation or something like that. So we offer lots of different options.
And that's
for somebody.
a great, I don't think we've ever talked about the respite option. And over the past few years, I've had a couple of assisted living facility representatives here. But what a great way to help transition a loved one into that type of environment.
Sure.
Because just like when you have a child that has to go into the hospital, you bring them for a tour, you let them see, you're explaining everything that's happening. I imagine that 5 days or a week while you're on vacation and they know they're only there temporarily, they get to try it out and maybe it's not so scary.
Sure, definitely. And then we also have adult day services. So maybe the family just loves having mom live at home with them, but maybe they work during the day, so they're concerned about mom just being home alone or something like that. They can come just hang out with us for 8 hours or, just for the daytime, have meals with us, enjoy all of our activities, and then go back at home at night with their families. So lots of different options.
I love that you have the adult day option as well. What is the typical cost for an adult day option? And can they flex that? Is it 2 days a week, 3 days a week, or full-time, or how does that work?
Sure. We do 7 days a week, so that's great for even if families are wanting to do a day trip and need a place for mom to be secure and safe and happy. Or, maybe husband and wife need a date night and mom can't stay by herself. So we're pretty flexible in hours and times like that. So we can do a 1 to 4 hour block or a 5 to 8 hour block, whatever. And so for the block of time, 1 to 4 hours is $50, and then an 8 hour block is $75.
That's not bad. Like you said, that's like going out for a date night.
Exactly. And then, of course, respite care, we can do one night overnight, or as long as somebody, may need us if there's a 2-week cruise. Gosh, that sounds great, doesn't it? We can most certainly help somebody out for even just temporary. And even if somebody's coming from the hospital, maybe they've, hurt their hip or something like that and just need more physical therapy, more, attention and care and loving on some,
transition them back home,
right?
Maybe.
And so maybe they're completely independent, can still very well nicely live at home, but just need a little bit more care while they're healing. They can stay with us and then easily go back home as well. So get the physical therapy in the community.
And what's the respite cost?
So if somebody's going to be there for 30 days or more, then it can, be the cost of, depending on what style of apartment they may choose. In some of our communities, we do this really neat program called the Step Down Program. So if somebody's just coming from the hospital or from rehab, they can stay with us for $50 a day, all services, everything included for 30 days. And so that kind of gives folks a little bit more confidence and love and help before transitioning back home. So that's our step down program that we have in a lot of our communities in place. But if somebody just needs us for 2 nights, then that cost of that is pretty much like a hotel stay, $130 a night, but includes, help with medication management, food, whatever services that they may need.
That's reasonable. And again, a very good way to get to know whether or not your loved one would adjust to this type of a community. So Tim, great information shared to us from Ginger regarding the communities and some of the folks that she sees. Now, once they come into the building, what are some typical questions that they might have for you? And what are some typical needs that they have, and how do you address those?
I think most of the folks that walk through the door are going to tell us something about some worries about medication. Ginger touched on falls. That's a big one also. Those two can be related in some ways. If mom's not taking her medication correctly, there could be other problems resulting from that. So falls, medications, worries about meals, not eating correctly, worries about maybe seeing mom kind of slip into a depression because she's not getting any visitors, and in general, just their safety, knowing that someone is an elderly person is staying by themselves, and the just the risks are inherent there. So,
and I do want to talk about, well, let's first talk about what you just said, not getting any visitors. Again, that's the beauty of an assisted living facility, because in my travels to your assisted living facilities, it is very active. There's something going on all the time. And you can oftentimes be more social. And it takes time. You make friends and you get comfortable. But once that happens, people really look for each other, and they're social throughout the day, even if they're just sitting on the couch reading a newspaper with someone sitting in the chair next to them.
Sure. Yeah. I have a activities director in the community 7 days a week. And so for 8 or 9 hours a day, there's going to be someone there coordinating activities. We have planned activities for the whole month. One of the really neat things I've seen as the community has grown is that the residents are not waiting for the 12 o'clock activity to start. A group of ladies will come out and grab the cards and start playing cards, or grab a board game and start doing that on their own. And I know for a fact when every morning when I pull up, we have 8 or 6 rocking chairs. Those are all full out front, and folks are just sitting and kind of enjoying the morning. There's just tons of opportunity for fun things to do.
Talking about here comes Tim. He's a little late today.
Yes, they're always, they're always looking at their clock. It's so hard for me to get up by 11 a.m., but I make it out there most of the time. It's just
they do watch out for you.
Fun.
I love it.
Yeah, they'll kid you a little bit, and that it's really. As our community has grown, it really has become a community, and you can't. That's hard to explain, and folks have to come in and see that.
You really
and you can
do.
say that it's a community, but when you walk through, you get to feel like you were talking about, and you'll see the fun things happening. And that's why it's important to visit and find the right place for your loved one.
And it'll take away the fear, because it is so much more positive. You hear assisted living facility and you get all nervous, but when you go in, it really truly is such a happy place. I mean, I love going in, and sometimes when I go in and I'm waiting an appointment on you or whoever, I love just going in just a little bit early and sitting on the couch and just listening to some of the conversations, and it is so funny. It just
Never
makes my
know what
day.
they're going to say.
Well, did you see Sally? She didn't come to dinner last night or whatever. It's I love it. But I do want to talk a little bit about memory care, because I know Benton House in principle focuses on memory care and has some very great, unique designs to help folks who are suffering from memory impairment, and how that helps them stay independent as long as they can as well. But we're going to have to go to break here in a little bit. So I did want to just shout out maybe 1 or 2 resources. We talked about some books that might help folks transition their loved ones to an assisted living. I want to make sure to empower them and give them some resources to look at.
I think one of the best books we've seen is written by an author named Dale Carter. It's actually titled Transitioning Your Aging Parent, and it takes you step by step. It was written from her perspective. She knew that she needed to do something for her mother, I believe it was, and just kind of put all that into a book and to be a resource for folks who are going through a similar journey as she did.
And I know you gave me that title. It's called Transitioning Your Aging Parent, a 5-Step Guide Through Crisis and Change.
That's correct.
It sounds perfect. And then also, can we shout out your information if someone wants to ask you questions or talk to you about possibly transitioning a loved one, a phone contact and an email and a website?
Yeah, I think a good website is www.bentonhouse.com. That's a great resource for all the community, so you can go there and find something close to your area. My personal email address is douglasvilledirector@bentonhouse.com. I'll certainly be happy to answer any questions you might have or get you resources that you're looking for.
Okay, great. And a phone number where you could be reached?
Phone number for Benton House in Douglasville is 770-942-9449.
Great. And we air in different markets, even if you're not in the Georgia market. One of the things that I know from Tim and Ginger is they're a resource to you. So regardless of whether Benton House in Douglasville or Manor on the Square in Roswell is the right facility for you, they would be more than happy. And one of the reasons they were invited on the show to help you and share with you other resources to help you make your decision in your community as well.
Definitely.
So when we come back, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk more about memory care, folks suffering with dementia, how an assisted living facility can help and give loved ones peace of mind while empowering the loved one to live as independently as possible. And we're going to talk about some of the different regulations that might impact assisted livings and personal care homes. So stay with us. and we'll be right back. Hello, I'm Jean Pete, and I welcome you back to our show, Better Living. Better Living is brought to you by the Homestead Hope Foundation and is sponsored by Homestead Hospice, where commitment to education and premier hospice care helps patients and families through life's most important journey. Welcome back to Better Living. I'm Jeannie Pete, and I'm here again to remind you today with Tim Carter and Ginger Couch from Benton House Assisted Living Facility in Douglasville, Georgia. They're part of the Principal Senior Living Group. Did I get that right, Ginger?
Yes, you did.
Which is mostly in the Mid-Atlantic, but also in Kansas and Missouri and South Carolina, Florida, and lots of facilities in Georgia. And we're here talking about assisted living facilities and helping your loved one transition to an assisted living facility when you know that that time has come in their life to keep them safe, and sometimes just to even keep them independent. And we're going to talk a lot about the memory care units that are within the Principal Senior Living Group and what might make them different, and some of the questions that you might want to ask to make sure that you're choosing the best facility for you and your loved one. So with that, Tim, let's start with you. Can you kind of give us an overview of your memory care units and what they're all about?
Sure. One of the largest growing concerns, or probably the largest concern with our current senior population, is the process of dementia, or discovering that your loved one has dementia or the Alzheimer's diagnosis. And so within our assisted living communities, we have a kind of a community within the community. It's our memory care neighborhood. We call it our Beacon neighborhood in the Benton houses. Some of the other Principal Senior Living groups may call it something different. But it's a keypad protected environment. It's all within the Benton houses, all designed the same. They're built around one large common area. We try to limit hallways, and which can help decrease confusion with some of the residents. And also, having all the apartments open to the common areas really helps you pull in the residents. And we know that having activities is so very important in that community, and so makes it easier to get folks involved. They just, as soon as they walk out of their apartment, they're going to be in an area of activity and involved in something. We have courtyards also built off of the memory care neighborhoods that allow access by the residents, and with lots of windows for the staff to view. And so what's important about that is the residents can venture out there and take walks or go sit outside on their own, keep that independence intact. And we all know that there's a dignity that comes with independence, but they're also going to be in a protected courtyard, and plenty of viewing for the staff to make sure that they are going to be safe out there, so they can come and go as they wish. Really, there's the freedom of that, and it's just very important to kind of focus on those individual needs. We try to set them up for success on a daily basis based on what we know each resident can still accomplish, and they're all going to have different levels of need, but it's very important for them to do what we know they can do, and for us to be there for assistance if they need it. And so we have an assessment process that kind of gives us an idea of what their needs are. And so things we'll do are like, instead of closets in the memory care apartments, there's armoires, which allow for a few key personal effects. And so there's not a closet full of clothing that someone with some cognitive impairment might stand in a walk-in closet and try to figure out what they're doing there. But instead, we offer just enough space for 7 or 10 days worth of clothing, and they can more easily make that choice and kind of be more involved.
Them
exactly.
And freeze them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've seen this design, and what's beautiful about it is you really feel like you're at home. You come out of your bedroom, you go into your living area, you can open the door and go out into your yard. Oftentimes there's a garden and there's benches, and it's real pretty, but it's all fenced in and it's secure, because one of the things that comes to everyone's mind is lost loved ones at facilities. You see one in the news once a year from somewhere around the country, and so you want to make sure that when you're placing your loved one somewhere and making a choice, that it's in a place that is safe and secure.
Absolutely.
And so you mentioned your keypad entry,
Mm-hmm.
Where family members can come in and out and there's no problem at all, but the loved one isn't going to be able to get lost out in the community.
Exactly.
And safety is of the utmost priority, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Something it struck me while you were talking, I love to cook. And so I putter around in my kitchen. Not really a big baker, but baked last night. And is there something for folks that are memory impaired that maybe love to cook or love to garden or love to sew? Do you have like little areas where they can kind of get into a basket full of yarn or whatever?
Definitely. We even put on our activity calendar, baking. So specifically in Douglasville, they do a really good job of this. But they, all sit around at the kitchen table and they mix up, the cake for that day's lunch. And so then they ice it after it bakes and they have it for lunchtime. So, really doing start to finish, baking, then being able to eat it and other things.
Maybe setting the table or clearing. Because anything that would keep you into your typical routine will make you feel less anxious about the change. So if you're used to cooking and cleaning and, my sister, I tease her horribly, the two things she likes to do is vacuum and iron. Now I know an iron is hot, so maybe that's not safe, but maybe one that's not plugged in and for memory impaired folks, or even a vacuum to help them vacuum the floor. That's something she would like. Honestly, not me.
Or folding clothes.
Yes.
I think a lot of folks, just remember their babies and raising their babies and their children and the smell of, a child and just folding those clothes. And so having a big basket of clothes to be able to fold and touch and just bring back those memories. While their short-term memory may not be so good, that long-term memory of still remembering when their children were little, it's so key to focus on what somebody can still do. Gardening, we have waist-high planters in a lot of our communities where they're able to dig in the dirt and plant tomato plants, and working with our staff to do those fun things because there again, they might not remember how to do something, but just doing it with somebody and somebody showing them how to do that is so important.
And they feel it. They might not always be able to communicate that, but they feel the empowerment of contributing.
Definitely.
So that's wonderful. What are some typical, how do you help a loved one feel more at peace about their decision?
You just have to, show them. And a lot of times it's just, just give me a month with your loved one and you come to our events and you see how much difference and how much of a good change you'll see your loved one from when they were at home, maybe alone, to when they're just being around people. And, we really, of course, embrace our families because we know it's hard for them as well as their loved ones. So just, following up with a phone call saying, hey, your mom participated in activities, sending an email with a picture or something fun that their loved one's doing to make them feel like that transition was a good decision. So there's just little ways that, as a community and staff that we can make the family feel a little bit better about their decision.
Peace of mind. Tim, do you have a policy where if you're bringing a loved one into a facility, can a loved one stay, a family member stay the first few nights or help transition them? And how long can you make that happen?
I mean, we welcome that. We want, holes in the wall for pictures hanging on the wall and, grandkids to come over. The biggest rule that we have is that you sign out when you take your loved one out of the community and that, of course, you're respectful for the other residents as it's everybody's home. And so if somebody's not feeling well or just wants that transition with, the family member being there, we, of course, want that to happen.
And that's wonderful because then for the first couple of days, the daughter, if it's me placing my mom, we could kind of venture out and meet other ladies and chit chat. And then I feel like there's a little bit of a network already starting before I leave her.
Sure.
But you mentioned something, you can always sign your loved one out. Just because you're dropping somebody off at an assisted living facility to make new friends and build a new home, that doesn't mean they can't ever leave.
Definitely.
And I don't think people realize that. Or maybe they do, and I'm wrong. But
And it's too, we do a really neat program called the Smooth Transitions Program. So pretty much the first week of somebody's there, all of our different management staff, whether it be the maintenance director going in and saying, hey, if you need a light bulb, I'm here. My name is, Thomas. or if you need a picture hung, hanging that, the food service director stops by a different day and says, what are your likes and dislikes? What's your favorite meal? Do you have any good recipes, just to make them feel good? And
let's talk about the food.
Oh.
Because you can't please everybody all the time now, can you?
You can, but, you can definitely make the plate pretty with just, portion size and just decorating it with garnishment. And, just even we have a food service committee, so a food committee rather, and they meet, like on a monthly basis with the food service director to kind of talk about, I didn't like that fish so much. Hey, can we try this? I really want some peach cobbler back on the menu and things like that. So we want nutritious meals, of course, healthy meals, but then of course good variety, whether it be, changing sauces up or something like that.
So can we run through a typical menu, like one typical day?
Yeah. Well, we have a neat thing where we have meals in place, meals planned, but then we also have our always available standard fare menu. So if somebody's just not feeling the catfish that day and maybe they want a BLT and soup, they can, of course, order that off the standard fare menu. It has salad, soups, pimento cheese, hamburgers, hot dogs. So
Nice.
There's a lot of opportunity for a lot of different yummy selections, almost like going to a restaurant, of course. But then, of course, your typical eggs, bacon, grits. We have a continental breakfast early in the morning for our early risers, then a hot breakfast. Then we have a lunch, then we have our dinner. And then if somebody is, maybe wants a evening 7 o'clock, sandwich or something light, then of course we want to have those opportunities for them to be able to grab an apple off the table, so they can eat healthy, but maybe they didn't want a huge meal that
No lack of food.
No lack of food.
It sounds like you're getting the freshman 15 going into the assisted living facility.
And the employees, yes, I know. I have to watch what I eat too, because the food is very good. So
Okay. So in terms of the memory care unit, is there anything else that we want the community to know about the principal living communities and memory care in general, and what some things they might want to look for are besides the keypads and the safety?
Well, yeah, I think we'd certainly welcome you to visit our website and find a community close to you and come see for yourself. You just want to get a feel for the staff and come in and see how happy the residents are wherever you're touring. It doesn't have to be Benton House, but seeing the environment can give you a good idea for what you're going to be involved in if you should choose something like that.
So I do want to talk a little bit about what's going on in Georgia, too, in regards to assisted living facilities and personal care homes, and educate the community about some of the regulations and compliance and all of that change that's going on right now with Georgia assisted living. You want to talk a little bit about that, Tim?
Up until last year, there was one licensure for communities that called themselves assisted living communities, and they were all licensed as personal care homes in the state of Georgia. And during the 2011 session, I think at the end they created a assisted living licensure category, and that means what the idea behind that was to allow loved ones to age in place is a big term that you probably saw if you were reading about it or saw it on the news. And it means personal care homes were limited in some of the services that they could provide with their own staff. So something that comes to mind, it would be something like insulin injections. Well, the assisted living licensure category allows for more nursing type care to be given by the community staff. I think there's also some structural ideas behind the licensure, the assisted living licensure. So the building has to meet certain requirements as well. The Benton House communities have done a great job of allowing seniors to age in place with partnerships with Homestead Hospice or companies like Homestead. We've worked very closely with also in-home nursing care providers to come in and give the services that maybe our staff can't provide under the personal care home license, but that we can still have take place if a partner is providing those services.
And it's my understanding that most assisted livings are going to be labeled in Georgia personal care homes. Not assisted living. Is that correct, or am I wrong?
The last I understood was the state really didn't know if you are going to continue to be licensed as a personal care home, could you still call yourself an assisted living community? And I don't really know that that's been washed out. I think it's so new that a lot of the the minutia of it still isn't sort of figured out yet. And so, not a knock or anything, but I don't think we know what we have with the license
It's evolving, and we
Sure.
haven't really finalized decisions because new things are coming up as things are
Absolutely.
uncovered. Is that what you
Absolutely.
mean? Okay. But the long and short of it is what I see in my talks with executive directors like you and other folks that are active in personal care and assisted living facilities in Georgia is that we're going to see a larger collaboration of care going on between the assisted livings and the personal care homes and the skilled home health and the in-home care and the hospice organizations. There's got to be a larger partnership. Is that right?
Well, absolutely. I think that was going to happen
Anyway.
regardless of creating a new license. We have to have services like hospice, and we have to have services with in-home nursing. Those partnerships are critical to our success, and there's things that we can't do under any license. But in order to keep someone in place, if they're happy there, we need to know what all of our resources are in order to make that family happy and still serve them the way we want to.
And so I don't even know if we want to talk about it yet because we really don't know what the decisions are going to be, but it could impact and be an important question for people that are visiting communities as to whether it's a personal care home or an assisted living facility. Is that correct?
Well, I think it's just important to understand the community that you're interested in or the communities that you're researching. Talk to them about the partnerships that they have in place. And you'll certainly want to understand what license they have and get their understanding of it. But you want to be sure that your loved one's going to be able to stay there for as long as possible, regardless of how they're licensed. And give them an opportunity to make you feel comfortable with the partnerships that they have. And no one can predict the future, but you want to know what's going to be available to you if you choose that community.
And, I think it's important for folks to know, regardless of where your loved one is at right now, things are going to come up in the future that
Absolutely.
may create a greater need. And so educate yourself about the partnerships, good questions to ask when you're going in and meeting someone like Ginger or Tim. Who do you partner with? How do they help? What if this is to occur with my loved one? What if they have a hospitalization? How am I going to make sure they get to come back to your community versus being told I have to send them to a nursing home? And I don't think people know enough that there are major collaborative efforts going on in personal care homes and assisted living facilities that will allow those loved ones to go back to the assisted living facilities. No, they don't always have to go to a nursing home. So these are great questions to ask when you're placing your loved one. Get knowledgeable now, because the best place for those folks to go out of the hospital is back home, which is now your facility.
Right. And a lot of times physicians will, try to drive that and point you in a particular direction. I think it's important for families to know what your options are and know that it is your choice. And while they may need a particular type of care, you can possibly get that in the community that you're in.
Okay. And what are some... Let's talk about that, because I have actually experienced that in my past work in hospice, where sometimes we end up in a tough situation because we want to advocate for the patient and what's best for the patient. And I, in my heart, believe that oftentimes if you can get a collaborative effort and a team of people surrounding them, I do believe the best place for them is their home, because that's where they're most comfortable, that's where it's less chaotic. And if you have that comfort and lack of anxiety present all the time, you can focus on getting better. And so let's talk about a typical scenario there. Sometimes you have to go to a more acute care setting. Safety first. But if you can ensure the safety of the loved one, how are you going to work with skilled home health or in-home care or hospice to help that loved one come back to their home?
Well, once we kind of get an idea of what the residents' needs are, we do a pretty good job of understanding our resources. Physicians will help us with that. They'll kind of direct us toward maybe a hospice order or a home health order, and then we can present different referral options to the family. It's important to have all those available to family members. We've had both conversations with families as far as yes, Benton House or personal care home is a good option for you. It's still going to be, viable, and your loved one can stay here. But we've also had to go the other way and say, you know what, we're worried that you're not going to get the care that you need in a community like this. And we don't just abandon folks at that point. We're certainly going to become another partner for you. We'll give you all the resources we have in the community and try to help you in that decision. We know it's not an easy thing to do, and we certainly don't want people to feel alone in that. And so, it goes both ways. But our number one concern is always going to be care and where that person is going to receive the best care. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not a personal care home or it's not Benton House, but we don't want families to feel alone if it's not going to be.
And, I'm so impressed about that with you and Ginger and Benton House. And it seems like the principal group philosophy in that even if you can't help someone, you're going to take that next step or next 3 steps to make sure that they get the help they need. They're not just going to be sent off because they can't come to your facility without the help that they need. But I do want to talk about that transition if they can't stay at Benton House, or if they can't come back to Benton House or Manor on the Square or whatever facility it is. And I know that you've worked with Homestead Hospice in the past, and how nice that transition is when the nurse that's coming or the aide that's coming to your building with additional, let's not even say hospice, even if it's home health or in-home care or hospice care, if they can no longer go back to that facility, that's why that collaborative team effort can be so helpful, because then, therefore, if they're going to a different facility, they have to go to a skilled nursing home for, say, that home health nurse or that hospice nurse or that home health or hospice aide is now going to visit them at the new facility, and there is a familiar face, and there is someone who's familiar with their care and their medicines and what they like and how to help them get into the shower in the best way possible. And so that additional ears, arms that you all are so proactive at using in your buildings can be so helpful in the event that someone can't come back to their home, because it just helps them transition. You have another extension of someone who knows them before they go to another building, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. And there's typically a social worker involved too, particularly from the hospice aspect, and it's just another resource for you and someone else who's going to do some of that research and help you through that process. So,
right, and then that gives peace of mind to the families as well, because that person is calling the loved ones in the family, I knew your mother when they were here, and this is where she is, and this is how I find her, and you feel like you have a objective opinion helping you with that transition as well. Well, I do ask you one more time to give some contact information if someone wants to come and take a tour or volunteer at your facility. Okay. How can they get in touch with you?
You can reach me at 770-942-9449. The website for Benton House is www.bentonhouse.com, and it'd be a place for you to find the community closest to you in your geographical area. My email address is douglasvilledirector@bentonhouse.com, and certainly if you're interested in any information or volunteer opportunities, feel free to reach out, and we'll help you get through there.
And Ginger, it's been a while since I've talked to you. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I got so caught up in everything.
He's such a dynamic personality.
But Ginger, you're always, you're helping with the communities and the education and the outreach. And so if someone wanted to get in touch with you, how could they get in touch?
Definitely. My personal email is gcouch@principalseniorliving.com.
Okay, wonderful. Well, Ginger, thanks for coming and joining me today. And Tim, it's been a pleasure. Great information shared.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it. And if you or a loved one want to tour one of the Benton House facilities, please give Tim or Ginger a call or email them or see their website. And as always, you can always come to the Homestead Hospice or Homestead Hope Foundation website at www.homesteadhospice.com. I'm Jeannie Pete. Thanks for listening. Have a blessed day and week ahead. And listen here, same time next week and every week. Homestead Hope Foundation is your resource for a healthy life. God bless.